All right, welcome back to the Co-Founders Podcast. It's your host here, Justin.
And Brian.
And today here we got a very special guest here, our boy Joshua Greene. We met Joshua back when we were selling life insurance. We met in the same office. Tell us, how was that for you?
It was quite an experience for sure. So when I got into life insurance, I started with a different IMO, and I was 18 when I got licensed. But my first 6 months, I had no sales, no recruits. It was like a grind trying to sell my friends and family. So I would say later in the next year, that's when I ended up going to this event. It turned out to be about life insurance, but I didn't know. And it was actually really cool because I saw a lot of people on stage who were making 5 and 6 figures, and they weren't that much older than me. So I'm like, what am I doing wrong? It felt like it was too good to be true, but I ended up getting connected with someone there, and they flew me out to Chicago. They provided leads for me. That's when I met Justin and Brian, and it was a pretty cool experience. My first month, I sold 30,000 in annual premium.
Wow. Yes, that's crazy too. I remember when we first met. I remember we went to Portillo's. I don't remember that. And you were giving us a brief backstory on where you came from Arizona until now where you are at that moment. And I just remember because there was a lot of people with that, something similar with that story. Everyone was in that office for a reason, to grind, to get themselves out of a certain situation. So it was crazy. I remember we both had, or actually, no, we didn't have the same upline. We were in the same office, but in the same agency. And your first month doing 30K, how was it that you went from going 3 months without making maybe a few sales to making 30K in 1 month? What was that switch? What was the difference?
The biggest difference was having leads to talk to, because with the other place I was at, they wanted us to sell our friends and family. I didn't even know what leads were. I never called before. Even at the office, I didn't really cold call because they were warm leads, but I never dialed. I didn't know what dialing was. I didn't know what leads were. So I was seeing a lot of resistance because I didn't have a foundation or any direction. And so when I made that switch, everything changed when I had fresh people to talk to every day. I had a script that I would study and memorize, and just learning to talk to people over the phone. I think that was it. I made my first sale my second day, and then it just continued to go up from there.
100%. That's one big difference, captive and broker, was having those leads or having the access to multiple carriers, basically very open to a lot of things. For me and Brian or everyone else, I think everyone's experience is different. For sure, I think the people that when we were at the office, majority of those people are no longer there. And that's something that I would like to get into as well, because if that's the case in majority of other places as well, there has to be a reason for that, right?
Yeah.
So as of now, where do you think you lay as an entrepreneurial type of I guess stance? Where's your stance currently?
So right now, just investing in real estate and also getting into mergers and acquisitions, M&A. So I connected with someone that I was working with and got into business brokeraging. So I sell businesses and get them investors, and I make a success fee for that. So that's what I'm doing now. I see myself, I had a vision for myself. I wanted to be wearing suits. I wanted to be having these large transactions, negotiating, sitting down at this table, signing documents, contracts. That's what I seen for myself, and I didn't know what that was. So it was like one day I was asking ChatGPT, what is this that I'm looking for? Because life insurance, it was cool, but that's not the image that I seen. So I was trying to find that thing that felt like it was missing. And so I learned about mergers and acquisition, and was from there, when I found out what it was, I just started putting in the work to get started. So I went to the International Business Brokerage Association, started learning about the vocabulary, the different markets, and then I found a mentor. He started teaching me, provided a list for me to call these businesses, and we don't sell a business less than 500,000. So the only thing though is that it does take a lot of persistence and building relationships. So it's not like a one call close like life insurance was. So when it comes to selling these businesses, it takes anywhere from 6 to 9 months on average, but sometimes it can even be up to 18 months or more to get the deal through.
Oh wow, so it's kind of it's similar, but it's also different from doing life insurance. So what are the similarities, I guess, from when you transition from life insurance to what you do now?
When I transitioned from life insurance, with me already being on the phones, because sometimes I do talk to business owners on the phone, it really helped me be able to communicate. Because with life insurance, you have to build trust. You're getting people's social security numbers, you're getting their banking information, and they don't even know what you look like. They don't even know where you are. So you have to build a lot of trust and be able to communicate like what you're doing and why you're doing it. I feel like that really helped me. So even though I'm not getting people's socials and banking anymore, I have, I guess, sales psychology to continue to move the conversation forward and get to the end result. So, for example, it's not about just getting a yes. It's not always just about the yes, but you saying things does that make sense. Just breaking things down to what you're doing and getting over objections before they come up. That's something life insurance helped me with, learning to get over objections before they happen. So now when I hop on these calls, I don't really have any friction because I'm directional with the call. I'm leading the conversation.
I did want to ask you, was insurance the first industry you started in?
My first introduction was starting with drop shipping. That's when I started to get into entrepreneurship. Was I wanted to get into drop shipping and I was trying to make money online, which I did end up making money online. It wasn't like a lot though, but I was like, I know this is going to take time. It's going to take me like, being consistent and learning what I'm doing. So I was watching YouTube videos, learning about different websites. I opened a Shopify store and I did it with some friends. So that's what gave me the start because I knew I didn't want to just work minimum wage at a job. Because at that time I was just working places that were just paying minimum wage. And life insurance was like my introduction to people or people to business sales.
Okay, so would you say
Yeah.
connection plays a big role when you want to achieve something greater?
I agree with that. Yeah, I do. Because it's not about what you know, it's about who you know and then also who knows you. And with me getting started in life insurance, I was recruited by this lady when I was working as a cashier. She was like, "Come here all the time. I just love your work ethic, your personality. I feel like you'd be a good fit." But I had so many people trying to recruit me at that time. Like, people were trying to recruit me for solar. People were trying to recruit me for
Mm.
so many different things. So I didn't take it seriously. And I met the vice president of ZipRecruiter, and he tried to recruit me. So I was like, "This is like I don't know what to do. I'm overwhelmed with these options." So I didn't do any of them. But then it was one day I wanted to quit. I was like, I'm ready to do something else. And all I seen on the business card was something about wealth. So it's like, I'm just gonna check it out. And I was 17 at the time. So I got connected with them. They started teaching me about Rockefellers. They started teaching me about financial literacy, introducing me to things that I've never knew about before. And that's what helped me a lot.
That's good. And I did have another question following that. So when would someone be ready to go into something like that? Do you need any type of funds for all that?
I would say just having drive, because that's something that can't really be taught. That's something you just have to have. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to like it. It just depends on what works for you, what your goals are, what you want to see happen and accomplish. Everyone has their why for why they're doing something, but I feel like the thing that they need to have is drive because that's what's going to get them to the next point. It's not going to be motivation, it's not going to be funds. Sure, those things are going to help and play part, but at the end of the day, what's going to help you accomplish your goal is drive that you have to getting what you want.
Yeah, 100%. I
Okay,
think
yeah.
what would be a better, I guess, more direct question would be like, why did you decide? What was the reason behind your drive of leaving from your hometown to go to Chicago, thousands of miles away? What was the reason behind that? Why did you choose to make such a big jump like that?
I saw the value in what was being offered. I met my upline just a week before, and they're like, "Hey, I'll fly you out so you can become better, so you can sell and market and all these things." So it was a no-brainer because I already had the desire to make it work. I already had a vision for myself. I feel like you have to have a vision. My vision was being a top producer and being able to make money and have time freedom and also help people too. So I was like, this is the perfect vehicle for that. So when she offered that to me, I was like, might as well you do it. Like it didn't make sense not to do it.
Right.
So, so you would say you did mention that when you were working, you had a whole lot of recruiters for solar and so on trying to recruit. So you would say you didn't have that vision plan when you were getting recruited by those people, but when you did get recruited by this one upline, your upline, you had that vision? Do you think that's why you decided to take the chance, or was there something different about that person?
Well, I did door to door. I knocked door to door. I was selling internet, but I knew that I didn't want to knock door to door. So I knew that me walking around knocking doors wasn't for me because I didn't want to have to. I felt like there was just a better path out there than doing that. Nothing against door to door, but I knew that solar wasn't going to be that fit because I already don't like knocking doors. Even if I could make more money with solar, it wasn't about the money. It was about my inputs that I'll be putting in, and it just didn't align with the vision that I had for myself because I wanted to be able to have more of passive, not necessarily you have to work from home, but be able to make money over the phone or from the internet, not where I have to go out and knock on these other leads. Still the same thing, it's still sales, but it's just in a different format. So I
Yeah.
knew what I was looking for, so it just aligned.
I had a question. So, what was a time in your life where you realized that you were not going to get to the point you wanted to be at or this have the success you wanted? In order to do that, you had to go into business or entrepreneurial. When was that?
It was probably when I was 12 or 13. I realized that if you're just working a job, even if you get at like a nice corporate job, even if you're making six figures, I seen myself having more than that. I knew that I didn't want to go through a path of where I have to spend a bunch of time getting a degree and working my way up, climbing some ladder to be able to have a comfortable life. So it was around when I was 12 or 13. So I started reading Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant. I started learning about real estate. I started learning about what wealthy people do. And I just seen wealthy people don't have jobs, they have assets. So I was like, oh, I just got to get assets. And then that's what kind of led me to that path. So when I was working at those places where I was at my part time jobs, my goal for working there was to be able to save money that I'll be able to invest into getting assets and getting things that's going to bring money in my pockets. And then I feel like with that's just compounded to those opportunities because that's where my mindset was. So I just attracted those things. But since I was young, 12 or 13, that's when that happened. And I just realized that if I want to get rich, I'm going to have to do what everyone else is not doing.
100%. Yeah, that's funny too. I remember reading that same book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I feel like that's a huge book. That's like a everyone basically that's ever even thought or had that type of mindset read that same book or read similar books. But in that office where we met, we all had the same drive. I felt like we were all in the same space with the same goals, which was to sell. And
Yeah.
every day, how we all three of us were in that environment where everyone basically had to sell, and if you weren't selling, there was something wrong. That was basically the standard. You had to sell. It was like, well, 5K a week or 10K, whatever it was. And
Yeah.
if you weren't hitting those numbers, then you were basically looked down upon. And that was like just in general, everybody was like that. Do you think that when you were doing sales, what was something that really a big impact that environment had on you? Do you think you had any throughout your journey? Did it affect you in a negative way or in a positive way?
I would say I take it as a positive experience, but at the time I was viewing it as a negative experience because it was a lot of pressure. It felt like things were just transactional, performative, but in that time, it allowed me to have a lot of personal development and grow and learn more about myself and see what aligns more with me. I feel like during that period, if that didn't happen where there wasn't a standard or if you didn't have expectations to hit, then you could just like, be drifting. You wouldn't really have any direction. So I agree with it, but to a certain extent, my thing is like it's good to have goals and have a direction where you're going, but also to have a culture as well, and where you're also having relationships where it's not just all transaction, just all business, but knowing that not only am I here to get better and growing, but I'm not just here. I don't know. It's not like you're just doing it by yourself. It's where it feels like an actual team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like it was always, I feel maybe you're 100% not the only person that felt that way. I think that's probably why me and Brian we were into the same thing every single day, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Even later than that, we would be in the office just dialing, grinding, basically no social life. We've missed out on a lot of significant events of family, friends, everything just to be in the office to grind. And I think that impacts a lot with mentally, financially. But as long as you take the good thing out of it, off of every experience, 100%, I took positive from the experience. And I know a lot of other people did too. But Brian, I remember we were both in that office. I remember we had a Joshua coming in too, and it's so crazy to look back and see how you were literally dialing off of those phones that were the landlines, right?
Yeah,
That was crazy. You were dialing off of landlines and you were still closing deals off of that too. So it's really good to look at. There's no excuses. It doesn't matter if you don't have a phone or not. You're always gonna find a way to succeed, or you're gonna find a way to get to hit your goal.
absolutely.
And I respect that about you for sure. Would you say it's a better industry for certain your experience, or for you personally? You think it's a better industry for you?
Yeah, I do actually, because it aligns with my goals and what I want. Like I was mentioning, I had a vision for myself, closing these big deals, I'm negotiating. I just see myself, being able to like wear suits and have these transactions and build relationships in the business world. So it most definitely does align with that. And it also is helping me grow as a person because it's not instant gratification. It's not happening all at once. It's taking consistency, showing up. So it's building new habits for me that is also affecting my personal life as well in a good way. So I feel like it aligns, especially with like the real estate part too, because as I mentioned earlier, I've seen people who are wealthy, it's not from just working a job. Either there's different ways it could happen, but for the most part, people who are maintaining their wealth, they're doing it by investing and by having assets. So that's also aligning with what I want to do because I want to be able to build generational wealth.
Would you say when you're recommending an industry to someone, viewer themselves who are watching this video, would you recommend them a type of industry? Would you recommend them to do life insurance first or real estate or there's many more options, solar. Would you tell them to do this exactly, or would you tell the viewer themselves to go try it out themselves?
I would tell them to look at what they want and what they're looking to get because it's not like a one size fit all. There's so many different things in sales. There's pharmaceutical sales, there's door-to-door sales, there's telephone sales. There's so many different things you can do in sales, even in-person sales. So it depends on what you want. There's some people who don't want to be in person closing deals. So at that point, virtual sales might be a better fit for you. But there's other people that don't want to sit down and just be on the phone. So they just might need that like personal or in-person interaction and where they want to travel. So there's different things out there for you. I would recommend looking at what you want to do and what your goals are, what your vision for yourself is. Find if you did it, if money wasn't an issue, if it wasn't about the money, what would you want to do? What would that look like for you? And that's what I did when I took out money, when I wasn't looking at money and I just looked at how I would want to live my life. That's when I found this is going to fit me best. But then some people might even realize that sales isn't for them. Everyone's meant to do sales, no matter what it is. It's not for everybody, and that's okay. So that's why it's important to know what you want and what you're looking for so you're not wasting your own time or other people's time. But I don't really consider it a waste though, because you do have to explore. It's from trial and error where you do end up where you wanted to go. So I would say try different things, but just be intentional with what it is that you're trying anyways.
I agree with that.
100%. I think one question I would ask you too is, what would you say to people when they're looking in whatever industry they're going to? And I think you're the perfect person to ask this. What exactly did you look out for when they're looking for mentors or for their guide?
If one thing, I don't know if this was something that I heard is if you wouldn't switch places with them, then you wouldn't want to listen to what they're saying. I take a lot of things people say with a grain of salt. You can learn from everyone. You can learn what not to do. You can also learn what to do. But if you're looking for a mentor, making sure that what they're telling you is going to get you to the next level, give you value, and be able to help you. So, not just taking advice from anyone. If the person that you're listening to doesn't have the results that you want to have, they might not be a good fit to mentor you.
One thing that me and Brian, the reason why we started a podcast like this was because when we were in that office, there was a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. right? From different
Yeah.
states and everything. And it's just so crazy how we were all united by one thing, which was drive to succeed. And
Yeah.
so we met so many different characters. We met people like that were $1,000 in debt that were here and flying out from a different state and just to grind it out. Maybe this is the chance to make it all out. But the truth and the reality of it is that there is a lot of people that have their lives ruined from the industry. And that's the truth. There's a lot of people that can succeed. There's a lot of people that had their life ruined. And I've was fortunate enough to see both sides of it and see basically how it was played out. Would you say that how people coming in, because in sales anyone can start. You don't need a college degree. You don't need even a high school diploma. So, would you say that for sales, if someone's looking to get out of jail free card or like get rich quick, sales is that the route to go?
No, absolutely. I feel like sales in general, no matter what type of sales it is, I don't care if this is the most easiest thing in the world and everyone starts and you're showing deposits and they're making money. If you're going into something for the money alone or because you want to get overnight results, that's not going to sustain you. That's not going to last. So I wouldn't recommend that for anyone. Also, because there's going to be times where it's highs and lows. And when those moments where it's low, you're not going to be able to push past that because you didn't have a strong buy-in. It was the only gratification was going to be, oh, just for money. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing because there's times where people go into sales and they just want to make money. That's what sales is good for. Like, it's really rewarding. So it's not bad to want to make money, but you have to have something more than that. And if you don't have that getting in sales, that's okay because you can still find that. If you're like, I don't know what I like, you don't know exactly where you're going, but you, at least you want to be better off. You want to freedom, be able to make more money. Just having that is enough because as long as you're putting in the work, that's going to develop, that's going to grow. There's people who don't know what they want to do and they don't have it all figured out, but then through the process, they end up finding out what it is that they want and going towards that direction.
That's so true because there's a lot of college dropouts that I've seen, even high school dropouts that get into an opportunity that they need something to look forward to. They need to see some kind of reason to go to tomorrow, basically.
Yeah.
And it's so true. Life insurance is that I feel like that it could be looked at as that door, that opportunity to have something to look forward to. But then again, it could be really either way, right?
So I think it's a double-edged sword when it's the life insurance industry, just because it's a good industry, don't get me wrong, but you're basically handing out someone, you're basically the business itself, and you got to build credibility behind that. And if like you don't inform yourself pretty good on when you're doing and take one step wrong or continue to take those steps, you can really bring yourself in a bad position just because I'm pretty sure people have heard this, or it's probably new for the people who are watching this, but there is this thing called chargebacks. So if a client can't pay that, or it's something that they can't do for the next passing 6 months and more, and they gotta cancel it, or for some reason they got a reason they don't want to continue that, that does go back to the agent themselves. So let's say that paid out, I got paid out 2,600. That's good and all, but then the client comes out and says the second month, oh, I can't do any more payments after that. You have to pay that sum of money back. And I would say it's a good industry, but it's also like you gotta make sure you're like, getting those sales on top because you're either gonna start owing that or you could just take out the negatives and just continue doing sales. But it's also mentally, and you just gotta be there in the game for the long. I feel like it's a long term thing you gotta do to maintain. I would say you always gotta be there. That's why I didn't like it, just because I did have. It's not that I didn't want to be there, but staying cooped in the office 12 hours a day, it wasn't really something for me wanting to do. But Justin said it could really ruin some people's when they come into the industry in different ways. It's not it doesn't have to be by the upline or the people that got them in, but just because they don't know how to maintain that. Here you go, here's a business, maintain it. Like no, I haven't. No, it's my first time doing this.
You gotta build it.
Clueless.
That's the thing about sales is no matter what sales you go into, that becomes your business. You got to treat it as you're the business owner. And I feel like some people don't really have the accountability for that, or when they're starting off, they don't have the accountability for that. But that is something that comes as you go. But in order for you to succeed, you have to take ownership for sure in any industry.
We went through all the big questions. We could just basically
Mhm.
go over what happened, I guess. So, what exactly happened? Because for me, when I left after Florida, did you end up going to that Florida convention? I don't remember if you did.
The Florida,
Oh, you
the
did. But you
yeah,
were.
I ended up going there. I ended up going for the Ignite.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
it
yeah.
was.
Okay, I remember.
Yo, I saw the stories, bro.
This the stories.
You went to the
You,
beach and all
wait,
that.
It was really fun. It was
Josh,
nice being able to connect with that team and on with them.
Josh has game, bro. That's all I'm gonna say.
Nah, I think that was fun though, because I remember we went to that same beach. It was the one with the bridge, the little ferry. I think
Yeah,
me, Jubei, and who else? And Chino. I don't know if you remember Chino.
yeah, I remember Chino.
Chino, all of us three went to that beach, and bro, it was nighttime, so it was like waves were super big, and I went all the way in, bro, and the waves started taking me all the way. I was like,
Yeah,
oh shit,
yeah.
I started getting scared, bro. You said you left in November.
I live where?
You left in November?
Yeah, somewhere around there. It was after my birthday I left. And I didn't leave on bad terms. I just knew that I did not want to continue with the way things are going because it was not organized. Everything was last minute. I left around November. I wanted to go back to Arizona, but then I didn't want to go back to Arizona where things were like I didn't know what the next move was. We didn't even have a date on when we were going to go back. It was like everyone just go back around this time. And then I didn't know, I didn't have communication. No one was really communicating what was going to be going on, what was happening. So I didn't even know what the next step was. So I'm like, so we go there and then what? I'm just going to be there. And I didn't want to continue to go blindly into things. So that's what led me to not leave with everyone else at that time. I low key was kind of getting burnt out too because it was like every single day for 12 hours back to back. It was constant selling and there wasn't any sort of like relief. I didn't feel like any real connections were being made because everything felt like we're all just doing this together, but it didn't really feel united. It didn't really feel like a unity. So for me, I didn't really have any outlet or any relief or anything to look forward to at that point. So it was like, I lost my why am I doing this? But it ended up leading me into what I'm doing now. So everything just worked out.
Would you guys say you guys relate to this? I came into this business believing and taught that loyalty mattered, that your word meant something, that relationships were real. And then I learned even those you pray with will prey on you for profit, even the ones you admire the most. Some people trade loyalty for money. Betrayal is profitable, lies spread faster than the truth, but God sees every move. Above all, God knows the truth. Did you guys feel like some of that relates to what we were doing in the business with the people we were around with, or no?
Yeah, I agree. I could see that. See the correlation.
I feel like at the end of the day, you just have to come in with a mentality. It's at the end of the day, it's just business.